Hey everybody, I'm Kevin P. Sullivan of East Camden, New Jersey, and I'm talking about city skylines today. A lot of folks wonder what's the most realistic way to play the city. Well, think about it here. You've got an area of land and you gotta have a river running through it, and you have very limited connections outside of the map. You're given a total of 4 road connections and 4 rail connections. 4 air connections and up to 4 sea connections, but if your river's not wide enough, well, there go your sea connections. And all in all, you've got very limited outside connectability. This is not a major metropolis. This is, you look at the area of the map, it's only a few square miles, square kilometers, whatever you want to call them. You take a modern city like Paris or Los Angeles or New York City or Moscow, it would totally fill up this map, and then some, and you'd have hundreds of roads on each side going off, connecting up with the rest of a town or what have you. You don't get that here. You get the limited connections. And then the next thing that made me wonder is, you gotta have a river there. And why is a river there, or other water source? I suppose if I put like a small divot of water and fill it to the top, just a little circle there, that would count. But generally people put a river or a seacoast through in the middle tile, or whatever tile is the main one to purchase. Why is that water source necessary? There's a lot of cities that aren't built near rivers. They just use underground aquifer water. And then it occurred to me, if you're going to require the water and you have limited connections, well, of course, it's because you've got a nuclear weapons research facility right there. That's the most realistic way to build out your city skylines. So that's what I've done here. I've got the Bonton Bend Nuclear Reservation here. This is an area where there's a massive plutonium processing plant for nuclear weapons. Makes a lot of energy, and yep, there's the outflow. Let's zoom in on that. Why did the plant disappear? Well, it's a secret plant, of course. You can't always see it, but here we go. That's the outflow, and you gotta have it go straight into the water source, and then it goes downstream. So it's all coming off of here. That's just wastewater. Now, back in the 50s and 40s, both the Americans and Russians were saying, oh, it's perfectly fine. This is a tolerable amount of radiation. That's what they said, and they kept to it because they didn't want to look like liars, which they would look like liars if they suddenly stopped pumping out nuclear waste. So yeah, that's what they do there, and we've got all the people in the town here are very happy and well kept. I actually think the mid-century modern assets that we have here are perfect for a nuclear city. Look at these fine family homes. These will attract the top scientists and other talents from across the nation. They will want to live in these beautiful mid-century modern homes with palm trees, and then they'll go work in the nuclear reactor and not worry about high radiation levels. And in fact, with these don't even put out pollution. So in the game terms, they don't have pollution they are not worried about. In reality, they're putting out massive amounts of atomic radiation, but again, the people don't really care because they don't know about it. What they don't know can't hurt them. Or, well, can't be claimed to hurt them in a court of law when they sue later on for health problems later in life. And that's very realistic. So these people are making that trade-off there. They're moving in. Look, we've got a positive population inflow because they're so happy to live here. Mid-century modern homes, requirement for water, and very limited road connections. Yep, it's a nuclear plant town where you gotta make the plutonium. And I really like how baseball fields and football fields, those kids are getting the finest education this side of the Cascade Mountains, I tell you what. Those are great facilities there. We've got an amusement park. Oh, look at that. We're having fun times here at Neutron Park. More ball fields. We're putting into more residential development because the residential demand is here. We're doing great. And very low crime because all the people moving here are middle class and upper class, and all the poor people who are working in the plant as janitors and other custodial staff, well, they live way off the edge of the map in a very poor area, and they drive in, but they don't have to be seen by the people here in Kingwood Acres. And that is actually how those nuclear cities were built out. the Americans built out this area around Richland, Washington, and the Russians copied it with the city of Ozers. The Russians were copying everything the Americans were doing, even down to the type of city they would build, and where the researchers and other academics and top administrative staff lived was in a beautiful little town where poor people were basically kept at arm's length. And in the Russians, well, they had a nice little town with all kinds of shopping and other facilities available, and then the prisoners and soldiers were kept off the edge where they would work in the more dangerous jobs. And you talk about dangerous jobs, kids in the Russian one, they would actually take water that was nuclear waste and it spilled out of a burst pipe. They would soak it up, and they knew there was plutonium in the water, and they would go take the water back to process it to get the plutonium out because they had very limited supplies. That's how they did it in Russia. And in America, they had some people who knew better, and they would never go into the facilities where the people were exposed to high levels of radiation. They would just stand at the edge and hand their papers and run away. There's a fun story about a lady who had to work in one of those areas that was highly irradiated. She was going to show for reporters how to pour the plutonium solution from one beaker to another. That's part of the process they used to refine it. No man was used in that because it was too dangerous. They thought, let's expose a woman to all this. And when they realized the flash photography might actually set off a chain reaction, they told the male reporters to leave the room, set their cameras up on an automatic timer, and they left the woman in there to pour. Even though they knew if the flash went off and they did cause a chain reaction, she would be a fatality. It was quite the kooky story. You know, when we say it was a different time, it really was a different time when, you know, women were considered expendable and minorities and prisoners were considered things that should be kept completely out of sight. And that's what happens here in City Skylines. We don't see any. Look, where are all the poor people? Where are all the criminals? I don't see none of them. I see everybody driving cars and having a great time buying stuff and shopping and living in wonderful upper middle class type homes here with swimming pools everywhere. This is exactly the kind of city that was built to sustain the nuclear weapons production and research facilities built in the United States and Soviet Union. So if you're wondering how can you make the most realistic city with the limitations of the City Skylines map, well, go get a big old nuclear reactor and plop it right down in the middle of your town and make absolutely sure you've got that nuclear waste being pumped into the water supply. Now, I use the water drain pipe. I think that's the most realistic one there because, again, if you use one that generates pollution, people are going to talk about it, and you don't want that to be known. You want to be able to say, nope, that's totally clean water. Nothing more to see here. It's not completely irradiated with alpha, beta, and gamma rays and all that horrible stuff there. There's no strontium in that water. No, turn around. Look, it's green. It's a wonderful place. Oh, yeah, by the way, also, limits on the number of trees. In the basic game, you don't get all that many trees, and that is actually quite realistic because lots of this area was very sparse. Because what would happen is the government would come by and they'd find, hey, you know what, there's this really sparse area, people tried to settle it, went bankrupt farming, they're ready to run away from this land, they want to get off of it, so they would buy it up for a song and evict all the people and then build a new town with, again, very sparse vegetation. I went with a lot of scrub here, but in town we've got the palm trees because you want to attract the people there. You don't want them living out here in the scrub one. No siree, Bob. You want them living in town with plenty of palm trees. Oh, that's that California kind of lifestyle there. All right, granted, in Russia, they were building out in Siberia. It's not that sparse. It's a lot of forestry stuff there. But hey, you know what? You can get the tree anarchy mod and get like millions of trees and just dump out a whole bunch of pines. It's the same effect. So yeah, you want to make the most realistic City Skyline city? Well, get that nuclear reactor and water output and mid-century modern homes, and I guarantee it'll be wonderful. Oh yeah, don't forget the amusement park. The people want an amusement park. You gotta have a Ferris wheel next to the reactor. If you don't believe me, look at pictures of Chernobyl. You'll see the Ferris wheel and the reactor in the background. So anyway, have a great time building realistic City Skyline cities. I'm Kevin P. Sullivan of East Camden, New Jersey, telling you how it's done.